The massive ship hung in space like a metal mountain. Admiral Kyung-ho looked out the small window of the human shuttle as they approached the Valorian command vessel. The alien ship was 10 times bigger than anything Earth had ever built. Its surface gleamed with strange metal that seemed to bend light around it. "Look at the size of that thing," Captain So-young said from the pilot's seat. Her hands moved over the shuttle controls with practiced ease. "Makes our biggest ships look like toys." Dr. Taemin adjusted his glasses and stared at the readings on his scanner. "The power output alone is incredible. They could destroy our entire fleet with this one ship." Kyung-ho nodded, but kept his face calm. He had been chosen to lead this meeting because he could stay cool under pressure. The Valorian Empire ruled over 1,000 star systems. They had invited Earth to discuss trade, but everyone knew this was really about something else. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. The airlock hissed open, and they stepped into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Everything was huge, built for beings much larger than humans. "Welcome, little Earthers," the voice boomed from everywhere at once. High Commander Veltarin appeared around a corner, flanked by 2 other Valorians. Each alien stood nearly 3 meters tall, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and dark, and when they smiled, they showed too many teeth. Veltarin looked down at the humans with obvious amusement. "So these are the famous primates who learned to fly between stars. Fascinating. You look just like the pictures in our databases." Kyung-ho stepped forward and bowed slightly. "High Commander, we thank you for this meeting. Earth is honored to meet with the Valorian Empire." "Oh, the honor is ours," Veltarin laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "We so rarely get to see such primitive species up close. Come, come, let me show you our bridge. You will be amazed by real technology." The bridge was indeed amazing. It was a vast dome filled with floating displays and control panels that seemed to be made of pure light. Dozens of Valorians worked at stations, their 4 arms moving in complex patterns. Ships moved across tactical displays like living things, and the computers spoke in musical tones. "This single ship," Veltarin said with pride, "controls 12 star systems. We can destroy planets from here or create new ones. We have weapons that can tear holes in space itself." So-young whistled softly. "Impressive. How long did it take your people to build technology like this?" "Oh, only about 50,000 of your Earth years," another Valorian officer said. "Though, of course, we had help from the 17 species we absorbed along the way. Each conquest taught us new things." Taemin frowned. "Absorbed? Conquered, integrated, civilized." Veltarin waved a hand casually. "We bring order to chaos. Primitive species like yours need guidance. They cannot be trusted to develop responsibly on their own." The humans exchanged quick glances. This was what they had expected, but hearing it said so openly was still shocking. Veltarin led them to a smaller room filled with comfortable chairs sized for humans. Servants brought drinks that tasted like flowers and metal. The High Commander settled into a chair that adjusted itself to his body. "Now then," he said, "let us discuss why you are really here. Your species has been noticed. You have spread to 47 star systems in just 200 years. Quite impressive for such young creatures." "We work hard," Kyung-ho said carefully. "Indeed, but you work without direction, without proper leadership." Veltarin leaned forward. "We have watched your military exercises. Your ships are crude metal boxes with primitive weapons. Your tactics are, how do you say, basic? Simple?" So-young's jaw tightened, but she said, "Nothing. We offer you a great honor." Veltarin continued. "Join the Empire as auxiliary forces. We will give you better weapons, better ships. In return, you will serve in our fleets and help us bring order to the galaxy." "Auxiliary forces?" Taemin asked. "Support troops. Cannon fodder, as you humans say?" Another Valorian officer chuckled. "Every empire needs soldiers willing to die for the greater good. Your species breeds quickly and seems quite willing to fight. Perfect for dangerous missions." The room went very quiet. Kyung-ho kept his face blank, but inside he felt a cold anger building. "And if we refuse this generous offer?" Veltarin's smile never wavered. Oh, but why would you refuse? Your alternative is to remain forever trapped in your small corner of space. Limited, irrelevant, a curiosity for our xenobiologists to study. We appreciate the offer, Kyung-ho said slowly, but humanity prefers to make its own way in the galaxy. The Valorians looked at each other and burst into laughter. Make your own way? Veltarin wiped tears from his large eyes. My dear primitive friends, you do not understand how the galaxy works. There are forces out here that would crush your entire species without noticing. Pirates, raiders, ancient machines that hate all organic life. He stood up and walked to a large window that showed the stars, and worse things than those. Things that eat entire civilizations. Your little ships with their crude weapons would last perhaps minutes against real threats. We have survived this long, So Young said quietly, because nothing has noticed you. Yet, Veltarin turned back to them. You are children playing with fire, not understanding that the house might burn down. Your species lacks the warrior spirit needed for real combat. You are too soft, too emotional, too concerned with saving individual lives to make the hard choices that war demands. Taemin set down his drink. You think we are weak? Not weak, another Valorian said. Just limited. Your military records show you spend enormous resources trying to save single soldiers. You retreat rather than sacrifice units for strategic advantage. You negotiate with enemies instead of destroying them completely. These are not the actions of a warrior race. Leave warfare to your betters, Veltarin said with finality. Stick to exploration and trade. These are better suited to your gentle nature. Kyung-ho was about to respond when alarms began screaming throughout the massive ship. The lights changed from blue to red, and the musical computer voices became harsh and urgent. Valorian officers rushed to emergency stations. What is happening? Taemin asked. Veltarin's face had gone pale. He pressed a control on his wrist, and a holographic display appeared showing the edge of Valorian space. Dozens of dark shapes were emerging from what looked like tears in space itself. No, he whispered. Not now. Not here. High Commander, one of his officers called out. Long-range sensors confirm it. Kethamori swarm, at least 300 bioships, possibly more still coming through. So Young stared at the display. The dark shapes were moving, flowing like liquid toward the Valorian border worlds. What are those things? Death, Veltarin said simply. The Kethamori were a species that gave up their bodies long ago. Now they exist only as a swarm consciousness that consumes everything in its path. They take apart entire civilizations and use the pieces to build more ships, more weapons. More alarms joined the first ones. The bridge of the great ship had become a chaos of activity as Valorians tried to coordinate a response to this new threat. How long since they were last seen? Kyung-ho asked. 50 years, Veltarin said, without taking his eyes off the display. We thought they had moved beyond our galaxy. We were wrong. The humans watched as the Valorian fleet began moving to intercept the approaching swarm. Hundreds of the Empire's ships converged on the border, their weapons charging for battle. Will your fleet be enough? Taemin asked. Veltarin finally looked away from the display. For the first time since they had met him, the arrogant High Commander looked uncertain. We will find out, he said. The first battle lasted 6 hours. The humans watched it all from the Valorian command ship, unable to look away from the horror unfolding on the tactical displays. The Kethamori ships were unlike anything in the galaxy's databases. They looked alive because they were alive. Massive creatures bred for war, covered in thick armor that pulsed like a heartbeat. Some were shaped like enormous spiders with dozens of legs that fired energy weapons. Others looked like flying snakes, a kilometer long, their mouths opening to launch swarms of smaller creatures. By the void, whispered a Valorian officer as he watched his fleet engage the enemy. They are even more terrible than the records described. The Valorian ships fought, with precision and overwhelming firepower. Their plasma cannons could melt through a mountain, and their quantum torpedoes could crack a planet. Against any normal enemy, the Empire's fleet would have won easily. But the Kethamori were not normal enemies. Captain So Young watched in fascination and horror as a Valorian destroyer hit a bioship with enough energy to destroy a city. The alien creature screamed and twisted in space, great wounds opening in its hull. But then the wounds began to close. The ship was healing itself. "How is that possible?" Dr. Taman asked. High Commander Veltaran's 4 hands moved across his. Control panels trying to coordinate the battle. "They adapt. Every weapon we use, every tactic we try, they learn from it. The bioships share information instantly across the entire swarm." On the display, they could see exactly what he meant. The first few Valorian attacks had been devastatingly effective. But each time the same weapon was used, it worked less well. The bioships grew thicker armor where they had been hit. They changed course to avoid tactics that had worked before. "It is like fighting an enemy that becomes immune to everything you do," Veltaran said through gritted teeth. Admiral Kyung-ho studied the battle with the calm focus that had made him Earth's finest military mind. "How long can your ships maintain this level of fire?" "Not long enough," another Valorian officer reported. "Energy reserves are dropping fast. The bioships seem to have unlimited endurance." The battle was turning into a nightmare. Every time the Valorians destroyed a bioship, 2 more would emerge from the tiers in space. Worse, the destroyed ships did not simply die. Other bioships would swarm over the wreckage, absorbing the remains and growing larger. "They are not just conquering," Taman observed with scientific detachment. "They are feeding." A massive bioship shaped like a jellyfish wrapped its tentacles around a Valorian cruiser. The alien weapons could not penetrate the creature's thick hide, and the tentacles began to squeeze. The cruiser's hull cracked like an egg. "All ships, fall back to the second defensive line," Veltaran ordered. His voice was steady, but sweat ran down his pale blue face. So Young turned to him. "You are retreating?" "Strategic withdrawal," Veltaran corrected quickly. "We are pulling back to a better position," but the humans could see the truth on the tactical displays. The Valorian fleet was running. The mighty empire that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years was being beaten by creatures that looked like space monsters from an old Earth movie. The retreat continued for 3 days. The Kethmori followed, always maintaining pressure, never allowing the Valorians to rest or regroup. Every engagement went the same way. The Valorians would set up a defensive position, fight with incredible bravery and skill, then be forced to fall back when the bioships adapted to their weapons. "They are learning everything we know," Veltaran said during a brief break in the fighting. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 days. "Every ship we lose, every tactic we use, makes them stronger." The humans had been given guest quarters on the command ship, but none of them could sleep. They spent their time in the observation lounge, watching the running battle and trying to understand what they were seeing. "The Valorians are fighting exactly like humans would," Kyung-ho said thoughtfully. "Long-range weapons, careful tactics, trying to minimize losses." "Is that bad?" Taman asked. "Against an enemy that adapts to everything?" "Yes." Kyung-ho pulled up star charts on his personal tablet. "Look at their pattern. The Kethmori are not just following the Valorian fleet. They are hurting them." So-young looked at the charts and felt her blood turn cold. "They are driving them toward the core systems, the most populated worlds in the Empire." "Billions of people," Taman whispered. The next day brought even worse news. The Kethmori had split their fleet. While the main force continued pursuing, the Valorian military, smaller groups had broken off to attack undefended worlds. The reports came in one after another. Colony worlds stripped of all life. Industrial planets consumed down to bare rock. Research stations that simply vanished. "How many people lived on Kepler Station?" So-young asked after reading one report. 2 million, a Valorian communication officer replied quietly. "They sent one distress signal, then nothing." Veltaran stood in the center of the bridge, surrounded by displays showing the collapse of his empire. "At this rate, they will reach our homeworld in 10 days. "Can you evacuate the core systems?" Kyung-ho asked. "Evacuate 20 billion people? Where would they go?" Veltaran's laugh was bitter. "No, Admiral. We fight here or we die here. There is nowhere left to run." The humans watched another battle unfold on the main display. This time the Valorians had tried something new. Instead of energy weapons, they used kinetic projectiles. Massive chunks of metal fired at incredible speed. For a few minutes, it worked. The bioships had no defense against simple hunks of iron moving at 10% of light speed. Several of the creatures were torn apart. But then the adaptation began again. The bioships grew new armor. They changed their movement patterns. Within an hour, even the kinetic weapons were losing effectiveness. Impossible, muttered a Valorian scientist. How can they adapt to basic physics? They cannot adapt to physics, Taman said slowly, but they can adapt to patterns. Your ships fire from predictable ranges, at predictable intervals. The bioships just learn to avoid being in the wrong place at the wrong time. That night, Kyung-ho made a decision that would change the course of the war. He went to the communications center and sent a coded message toward Earth. The signal would take 3 days to reach human space, but it was the most important transmission in human history. The message was short. Humanity's neighbors are in trouble. We are going to help. So Young found him there an hour later. You sent the message. I did. The Valorians called us weak. They said we were not a warrior race. Kyung-ho looked at the tactical display showing the continuing retreat of the Valorian fleet. Maybe they were right. Maybe we are not warriors like them. Then why did you call for our fleet? Kyung-ho was quiet for a long moment. Because sometimes the galaxy needs protectors, not warriors. And sometimes the best way to protect something is to be willing to lose everything for it. 3 systems away, the Kethamori continued their advance. They had consumed 17 worlds and were growing stronger with each victory. The bioships were larger now, more sophisticated. They had learned much from fighting the Valorians, but they had never fought humans, and they had no idea what was coming. President Hyejin stood in the Situation Room deep beneath Seoul, surrounded by the most important people in human space. The message from Admiral Kyung-ho had arrived 3 hours ago, and since then, Earth's government had been in emergency session. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Admiral Dongwu said, his weathered face grim. The Valorian Empire, which has 1,000 times our military strength, is losing a war to these bioships? That appears to be the case, replied General Yoon-ji, Earth's top military strategist. She was younger than most of the others in the room, but her tactical mind was legendary. The aliens are adapting to Valorian technology faster than the Empire can develop new weapons. Defense Minister Jin Soo pulled up holographic displays showing what little information they had about the Kethamori. These creatures look like nightmares, and according to the reports, they consume everything in their path. Why should we care? Admiral Dongwu asked bluntly. The Valorians just finished telling our people that we are too primitive to matter. They wanted to use us as cannon fodder. Now they are in trouble, and we should risk our lives to save them? It was a fair question. President Hyejin had been asking herself the same thing since the message arrived. The Valorian Empire had treated humanity like children. They had laughed at Earth's ships and weapons. They had offered humanity the privilege of dying for their empire. But Captain Jae-sung had brought troubling news from his deep space reconnaissance mission. He was one of Earth's best scouts, and his ship could travel farther and faster than most of the fleet. Madam President, he said, I have tracked the Kethamori expansion pattern for the past 50 years. They move through space like a plague, consuming everything they find. If they finish with the Valorian Empire, their next target will be human space. The room fell silent. General Eun-ji studied the star charts on her tablet. How long would we have? 6 months. Maybe less, Jae-sung replied. And by then, they will have absorbed all of the Empire's technology. They will be much stronger than they are now. So we are not really talking about saving the Valorians, President Hyejin said slowly. We are talking about saving ourselves. With respect, Madam President, Admiral Dongwu said, even if that is true, what can we do? Our entire fleet is maybe 200 ships. The Valorians have thousands, and they are losing. Our ships are different, General Yoon-ji said thoughtfully. The Valorians fight with energy weapons and exotic technology. Very advanced, very sophisticated. And very predictable, added a new voice from the doorway. Lieutenant Subin entered the room carrying a thick folder of analysis reports. She was barely 25 years old, but her work with the Strategic Analysis Division had impressed everyone who saw it. Lieutenant, President Hai-Jin said, you have something to add? Subin moved to the main display and pulled up technical readouts of both Valorian and human weapons. I have been studying the battle reports from the Valorian front. The bioships adapt by analyzing energy patterns, technological signatures, and tactical behaviors. They learn from every weapon that hits them. She highlighted sections of the reports. But look at what they are adapting to. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, gravitational wave weapons, all very advanced technology that operates on complex scientific principles. And our weapons? General Yunji asked, though she was beginning to see where this was going. Bullets, Subin said, simply. Missiles, nuclear bombs, railguns that throw chunks of metal really fast. We still use gunpowder in some of our ammunition. Admiral Dongwu frowned. You are saying our primitive weapons might be more effective? I am saying our weapons might be less predictable. The bioships have been fighting advanced civilizations for thousands of years. They know how to counter energy weapons and exotic technology. But when was the last time they fought an enemy that used chemical explosives? The room was quiet while everyone considered this. It seemed almost too simple to believe. There is another factor, Jae-sung said. Human tactical doctrine is different from the Valorians. They fight to minimize losses and preserve valuable ships. We fight to win, whatever the cost. President Hai-Jin nodded. She had read the reports from human military exercises. Earth's forces had developed a reputation for aggressive, sometimes reckless tactics. Other species called it wasteful. Humans called it effective. What about the size difference? Defense Minister Jin Soo asked. Their bioships are enormous. Some of them are kilometers long. Size is not everything, General Yunji said with a slight smile. Sometimes a small, fast ship with nuclear missiles can do more damage than a massive vessel with energy weapons. Lieutenant Subin brought up another display. The bioships seem to prioritize survival and adaptation. They retreat when badly damaged, then come back stronger. But what if we do not give them time to retreat? Explain, President Hai-Jin said. Human doctrine emphasizes overwhelming firepower delivered quickly. We do not fight long, careful battles. We hit the enemy with everything we have as fast as we can. If the bioships cannot adapt quickly enough, they die before they can learn. Admiral Dongwu was beginning to look interested despite himself. You are talking about mass assault tactics. Send in everything at once and do not stop until the enemy is destroyed. Exactly. The Valorians fight like chess masters, thinking several moves ahead. We fight like... Subin paused, searching for the right comparison. Like humans, General Yunji finished. Aggressive, unpredictable, and willing to take risks that other species would never consider. The debate continued for another hour, but President Hai-Jin could see the mood in the room changing. The initial reluctance was being replaced by something else. Not just duty or self-preservation, but a kind of stubborn pride. The Valorians had called humans weak. They had said Earth's people were not warriors. They had offered humanity the chance to serve as expendable troops in someone else's empire. Maybe it was time to show the galaxy what human warriors actually looked like. General Yunji, President Hai-Jin said finally, how long would it take to mobilize our entire fleet? 48 hours, Madam President. But are you sure? We would be sending every combat ship we have. If we lose, Earth will be defenseless. If we do nothing, Earth will be dead in 6 months, President Hai-Jin replied. At least this way, we go down fighting. She turned to Admiral Dongwu. Admiral, you have opposed this mission from the beginning. I will not order you to lead it. The old admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he straightened up and saluted. Madam President, someone needs to teach these bioships what happens when they threaten humanity's neighbors. I volunteer for the job. And I will coordinate ground support operations, General Yunji added. The Strategic Analysis Division will provide real-time tactical assessment, Lieutenant Subin said. President Hai-Jin felt a surge of pride in her people. This was what made humans special in the galaxy. Not their technology or their ships, but their willingness to stand up for what was right, even when the odds were impossible. Very well, she said. Send the order to all fleet commanders, every ship, every crew, every weapon we have. We are going to war. As the meeting broke up and the orders went out, President Hai-Jin stood alone in the Situation Room, looking at The star charts. Somewhere out there, the Valorian Empire was fighting for its life against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. In 48 hours, they would learn what happened when humans went to war, and the galaxy would never be the same. The human fleet came out of hyperspace like an avalanche of metal and fury. 200 ships emerged in formation near the Valorian border, and every alien sensor operator in the sector stopped what they were doing to stare at their displays. These were not the elegant vessels that most spacefaring species used. The human ships looked like flying fortresses, built for one purpose: destroying anything that got in their way. They had no smooth curves or artistic details. They were boxes covered in weapons, armor, and more weapons. Captain Daun stood on the bridge of the destroyer Soul's Fury and watched the tactical display fill with contacts. Her ship was one of the smaller vessels in the fleet, but it carried enough firepower to level a city. Missile pods covered its hull like metal tumors, and railgun turrets tracked potential targets with mechanical precision. All ships report. "Ready for combat," her communication officer announced. "Good," Daun said. "Find me something to shoot." 3 ships over, Commander Wu Jin was having similar thoughts aboard his heavy cruiser Busan Thunder. His ship was ugly even by human standards, its hull bulging with weapons bays and armor plating. The nuclear missile silos running down its spine could crack a moon in half. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "we are detecting multiple bioship. Signatures bearing 27 Mark V. Range, 400,000 kilometers. "Excellent," Wu Jin said with satisfaction. "All missile batteries prepare for saturation bombardment." At the center of the human formation, Admiral Min Seo commanded from the bridge of the flagship Incheon's Resolve. Her ship was the largest in the fleet, built around a massive kinetic bombardment system that could throw telephone pole-sized projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. "Admiral," her tactical officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the Valorian command ship. Put it through." High Commander Veltarin's image appeared on the main screen. He looked exhausted, his pale blue skin marked with stress lines. Behind him, the Valorian bridge was a scene of controlled chaos as they fought their retreating battle. "Admiral Min Seo," Veltarin said, "we did not expect to see human ships here. This is surprising." "We came to help," Min Seo said simply. "Help?" Veltarin's large eyes widened. "These are not training exercises or police actions. We are fighting for the survival of our civilization. Your ships, while admirable for their design, are not equipped for this level of warfare." Min Seo looked at her tactical display, which showed dozens of bioships approaching the human fleet. "We will see." "Please," Veltarin said urgently, "fall back to a safe distance. Your crews do not need to die for our mistakes." "No one is dying today except the enemy," Min Seo said, and cut the transmission. The first Kethamori bioship to reach the human fleet was a creature that looked like a massive squid made of living metal. It was 2 kilometers long with tentacles that crackled with energy weapons. It had destroyed 17 Valorian ships in the past week. It died in the first 30 seconds of the engagement. The bioship approached the human formation expecting the kind of careful, long-range duel it had learned to expect from the Valorians. Instead, it found itself facing Lieutenant Namgi aboard the destroyer Soul's Fury. "All missile batteries," Namgi announced calmly. "Fire!" 400 nuclear-tipped missiles launched from the human destroyer in a matter of seconds. The bioship tried to adapt, growing thicker armor and deploying defensive fields. But there was no adapting to 400 nuclear warheads arriving simultaneously. The explosion lit up the darkness of space like a new star. When the light faded, there was nothing left of the bioship except expanding clouds of superheated gas. "Target destroyed," Namgi reported, as if he had just swatted a fly. The other bioships paused, confused by this new development. In all their battles with the Valorians, they had never seen anything die that quickly. They began to spread out, trying to analyze what had happened. That was when Commander Wu Jin opened fire with Busan Thunder. "Maximum yield, all tubes," he ordered. The heavy cruiser carried 200 nuclear missiles, each one capable of destroying a city. Wu Jin fired them all at once, targeting the largest concentration of bioships he could find. The results were spectacular. 6 bioships died in the nuclear firestorm, their adaptive systems completely overwhelmed by the sheer amount of destructive energy. "Reload and prepare for second salvo," Wu Jin said calmly. On the Valorian command ship, the bridge had gone completely silent. Every alien officer stared at their displays in disbelief. "How?" whispered one of Veltaran's subordinates. "How are they doing this?" Captain So Young, still aboard the Valorian ship as an observer, smiled grimly. "They are doing it the human way. Which is, if something needs to die, you hit it with overwhelming firepower until it stops moving." The battle continued for another hour, but it was not really a battle. It was systematic destruction. The human ships did not engage in elegant tactical maneuvers or try to capture enemy technology. They found the biggest concentration of bioships and hit them with everything they had. Admiral Min Seo coordinated the assault from her flagship, her voice calm over the fleet communications. "Group Alpha, target the bioships at Grid 77. Group Beta, concentrate fire on the large one trying to escape. Do not let anything get away." The bioships tried to adapt. They grew thicker armor, changed their movement patterns, and deployed new defensive systems. But every adaptation took time. And time was something the humans did not give them. Commander Sang-hoon led a squadron of heavy bombers against a bioship that was trying to flee. The alien creature was the size of a city, covered in adaptive armor that had learned to deflect energy weapons. "All units, attack formation Delta," Sang-hoon ordered. "Maximum yield, point-blank detonation." His squadron flew directly into the bioship's defensive grid, accepting heavy casualties to deliver their nuclear payloads directly into the creature's vital areas. It was a tactic that no sane species would attempt, but humans had never been accused of being entirely sane. The bioship died in an explosion that could be seen from 3-star systems away. "Squadron leader to all units," Sang-hoon reported over the radio. "Target destroyed. Moving to next objective." Dr. Tai-min, watching from the Valorian bridge, shook his head in amazement. "They fight like they have nothing to lose." "No," Captain So Young corrected him. "They fight like they have everything to protect." The Keth Mori had never faced an enemy like this. Throughout their long existence, they had fought sophisticated species that used advanced technology and careful tactics. They had learned to counter energy weapons, exotic particles, and complex strategies. But they had never fought anyone who simply threw nuclear bombs at their problems. More importantly, they had never fought anyone who was willing to trade ship for ship without hesitation. The bioships were used to enemies who retreated when badly damaged, who tried to preserve their forces for future battles. The humans did not retreat. When a human ship was damaged, it moved closer to the enemy and used its remaining weapons. When a human ship was about to be destroyed, its crew would ram it into the nearest bioship and detonate the nuclear reactor. It was not elegant. It was not sophisticated. But it worked. By the end of the first day, 47 bioships had been destroyed. The remaining Keth Mori forces, for the first time in their collective memory, began to retreat. Admiral Min Seo watched them go on, her tactical display. "All ships, pursue and destroy. No mercy, no quarter." High Commander Veltaran contacted the human fleet again, his voice filled with awe and something that might have been fear. "Admiral Min Seo," he said, "your tactics are unprecedented. We have never seen anything like this." "Good," Min Seo replied. "That means they have not either." The human fleet moved forward into Keth Mori space, leaving behind a field of debris that had once been an unstoppable swarm. The bioships fled before them, their adaptive systems unable to cope with humanity's simple, brutal approach to warfare. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. Sometimes the most effective solution is the most direct one, and sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one that does not care about fighting fair. What followed was not war as the galaxy understood it. It was extermination, conducted with the methodical efficiency that only humans could bring to the task of destroying their enemies. The Keth Mori had ruled through fear for 1,000 years. They had consumed entire civilizations, adapting and growing stronger with each conquest. They were evolution's perfect predator, designed to overcome any threat through superior adaptation. They had never met humanity. Commander Sang-hoon led his bomber wing through the debris field of what had once been a Keth Mori breeding station. The massive biostructure had been the size of a moon, designed to birth new warrior organisms for the swarm. Now it was expanding clouds of organic matter, destroyed by a direct nuclear strike. "Control, this is Bomber Wing 7, Sang-hoon," reported over the radio. "Target destroyed. Moving to secondary objectives." His squadron had lost half its ships in the attack, but that was considered acceptable losses by human standards. The breeding station had been eliminated, which meant no new bioships would emerge from this sector. "Copy that, Wing 7, came the reply from Admiral Min Seo aboard the flagship. "Excellent work. Proceed to grid coordinates Delta 7 and engage the cluster formation there." Sang-hoon checked his tactical display. The cluster formation was 6 bioships working together to defend a supply convoy. Under normal circumstances, attacking 6 ships with his remaining bombers would be suicide, but these were not normal circumstances. "All units, maximum yield attack," he ordered. "Do not hold anything back." The human bombers dove into the enemy, formation like falling meteors. They did not try to outmaneuver the bioships or use clever tactics. They simply flew straight at their targets and detonated every nuclear weapon they carried. The explosion destroyed the entire enemy formation and took most of the bomber wing with it, but the mission was accomplished. On the bridge of his heavy cruiser Busan Thunder, Commander Wu Jin watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The Keth Mori were learning to fear human tactics, but they were learning too slowly. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "we have multiple bioships attempting to retreat from Sector 9. "How many?" 15, sir. They appear to be heavily damaged." Wu Jin smiled without humor. "All batteries, prepare for pursuit fire. Do not let any of them escape." The bioships had learned that running from humans was just as dangerous as fighting them. The human ships were faster in straight-line pursuit, and they had no interest in taking prisoners or studying enemy technology. They simply hunted down every bioship they could find and destroyed it. Busan Thunder fired a full spread of nuclear missiles at the fleeing enemies. The bioships tried to adapt, deploying new defensive systems and changing course unpredictably. But adaptation took time, and the missiles were already on their way. 12 of the 15 bioships died in the nuclear firestorm. The remaining 3 scattered in different directions, hoping to escape. "Pursuit squadrons, engage remaining targets," Wu Jin ordered. "I want nothing left alive in this sector." 3 human destroyers broke off from the main formation and chased down the survivors. It took them 20 minutes to finish the job. The Valorians watched this systematic destruction with a mixture of awe and horror. High Commander Velteran stood on his bridge, staring at the tactical displays that showed the complete collapse of the Keth Mori forces. "They are not fighting a war," he said quietly to Captain So Young. "They are conducting a massacre." So Young nodded. "This is how humans fight when we decide something needs to die. We do not negotiate. We do not try to capture territory or resources. We just kill everything until the threat is gone." "But the casualties," another Valorian officer protested. "They have lost 30% of their fleet in 3 days. And they have eliminated 90% of the Keth Mori," So Young replied. "Which outcome matters more?" Dr. Taemin joined the conversation, his face thoughtful. "I think I understand now why other species find humans disturbing. You treat war like an engineering problem, something to be solved efficiently regardless of the cost. Because that is what war is," So Young said. "A problem that needs solving. The Keth Mori threatened innocent people, so they needed to be stopped. Everything else is just details." On the human flagship, Admiral Min Seo was planning the final phase of the operation. The Keth Mori had been driven back to their core territory, a cluster of captured worlds that they had turned into breeding grounds and resource centers. Intelligence reports that they still have approximately 50 bioships remaining, her tactical officer reported. They appear to be gathering for a last stand around their primary hive world. "Good," Min Seo said. "That will save us the trouble of hunting them down individually." Captain Da Yun contacted the flagship from her destroyer Soul's Fury. "Admiral, request permission to lead the final assault. My ship has the heaviest missile loadout remaining in the fleet." "Permission granted, Captain. Coordinate with commanders Wu Jin and Sang-hoon for maximum firepower concentration." The final battle took place in orbit around a dead world that the Kethmori had stripped of all life. The bioships formed a defensive sphere around their hive structures, determined to make the humans pay dearly for their victory. They still did not understand what they were facing. Captain Da-Un led the assault with every remaining human ship. They did not attempt to break the enemy formation or outmaneuver the defenders. They simply flew directly into the center of the defensive sphere and opened fire with everything they had. The battle lasted 4 hours and was visible from neighboring star systems. Nuclear explosions lit up the darkness like a chain of stars being born. Bioships and human vessels died together in the inferno, but the humans kept coming. When the last bioship finally died, the Kethmori swarm ceased to exist. The threat that had terrorized the galaxy for generations was ended, not by superior technology or brilliant tactics, but by humanity's willingness to pay any price for victory. Admiral Minseo stood on her damaged bridge and looked at what remained of her fleet. 73 ships had survived out of the original 200. By any military standard, the casualties were devastating, but the mission was complete. All ships. This is Admiral Minseo, she announced over the fleet communications. The Kethmori. Threat has been eliminated. Begin search and rescue operations for surviving crew members, then set course for home. Admiral, her communication officer called out. We are receiving a transmission from the Valorian command ship. Put it through. High Commander Veltarin appeared on the screen, but he was a changed alien. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like respect mixed with fear. Admiral Minseo, he said formally, on behalf of the Valorian Empire, I offer our deepest gratitude. You have saved not just our civilization, but possibly every species in this galaxy. We did what needed to be done, Minseo replied simply. Yes, Veltarin said quietly. You did, and we will remember that. The Empire would be honored to offer humanity full membership, with all the rights and privileges of a founding race. Minseo was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Thank you for the offer, she said, but humanity will make its own way in the galaxy. We do not need anyone's permission to exist. The transmission ended, leaving Veltarin staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew worked in silence, all of them thinking the same thing. The humans had just proven that they were not the primitive species the Empire had thought them to be. They were something far more dangerous, a race that could not be threatened, could not be intimidated, and would not hesitate to destroy anything that threatened their neighbors. The galaxy would remember this lesson for a very long time. 6 months later, the galaxy was a different place. The news of humanity's victory over the Kethmori had spread to every inhabited world, carried by traders, diplomats, and refugees who had witnessed the impossible, the complete destruction of the most feared threat in known space. Admiral Kyung-ho stood once again on the bridge of a Valorian ship, but this time the circumstances were very different. He was no longer a curiosity from a primitive world. He was the representative of the species that had saved the galaxy. High Commander Veltarin approached him with obvious nervousness. The arrogant alien who had once mocked humanity's crude technology now spoke with careful respect. Admiral, Veltarin said, bowing slightly, the Council of Worlds has reached a unanimous decision. We formally invite humanity to join the Galactic Federation as a founding member species, with full voting rights and territorial guarantees. Kyung-ho looked out at the assembled fleet in the viewing window. Ships from dozens of species hung in space around the Valorian capital world, elegant vessels from the artistic Melody Empire, massive fortress ships from the militaristic Krugan Republic, sleek explorers from the nomadic Wanderer clans, and in the center of it all, the remaining ships of the human fleet. Scarred and patched from their battle with the Kethmori, they looked crude and primitive compared to the other vessels. But every species in the galaxy now knew what those ugly ships could do. We appreciate the honor, Kyung-ho said carefully, but humanity has already decided our path. We will remain independent. Veltarin's large eyes widened in surprise. Independent? But surely you understand the benefits of Federation membership? Trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, access to advanced technologies? We understand, Kyung-ho replied. We also understand that independence means being responsible for our own choices, good and bad. Behind Veltaran, other alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. The idea that a species would voluntarily choose to remain outside the galactic power structure was almost incomprehensible to them. "But why?" asked Ambassador Kethron of the Melody Empire. "Your species has proven itself capable of protecting others. You could help maintain peace throughout the galaxy." Kyung-ho smiled, but it was not entirely friendly. Peace maintained by the threat of nuclear annihilation is not peace. It is fear, and fear creates its own problems. Captain So Young, now serving as humanity's official military liaison, joined the conversation. "What the Admiral means is that we do not want to become the galaxy's police force. We fought the Keth Mori because they threatened innocent people. That does not mean we want to get involved in every border dispute or political argument." Dr. Taemin, who had spent the past months studying alien psychology, added his perspective. "Most species see military power as a tool for gaining advantage over others. Humans see it as a tool for protecting what matters. Those are very different philosophies." The alien delegates looked confused. The concept of a powerful species that did not want to expand its influence was foreign to their experience. "Then what do you want?" Veltaran asked. "To be left alone," Kyung-ho said simply. "To explore, to trade with whoever wants to trade with us, and to live in peace. But also to be ready if something like the Keth Mori ever threatens our neighbors again." The meeting continued for several hours, with various alien species trying to understand humanity's position. Some offered technological exchanges, others proposed military alliances. A few even suggested that humans could serve as mercenaries, for hire. All were politely refused. As the formal session ended, Veltaran approached Kyung-ho privately. "I must ask," he said quietly, "are you certain this is wise? There are other threats in the galaxy. Ancient machines that hate all organic life. Pirate fleets from beyond the galactic rim, entities that exist in dimensions we cannot understand." "There are always threats," Kyung-ho replied. "But we learned long ago that you cannot prepare for every possible danger. You can only stay true to your principles and deal with problems as they arise." "And if one of these threats targets humanity directly?" Kyung-ho's expression grew cold. "Then they will learn the same lesson the Keth Mori learned. Attacking humans is easy. Surviving the consequences is much harder." The return journey to Earth took 3 weeks. The human fleet traveled alone, as they preferred, carrying the news of their diplomatic success back to the home system. President Hae-jin was waiting for them in the orbital station above Earth. She greeted Admiral Kyung-ho and his team with the celebration they deserved, but also with the sobering knowledge of what their victory had cost. 127 ships lost, she said as they reviewed the casualty reports. Over 15,000 crew members killed or missing, the largest military loss in human history. "But the job got done," Admiral Min Seo said quietly. She had been promoted to Supreme Fleet Commander after her victory over the Keth Mori. And the galaxy now knows that humanity protects its own. "More than that," General Yoonji added. "They know we protect our neighbors too. Word has already reached us from a dozen systems. Pirates and raiders are avoiding human space entirely. They know what happens to people who threaten our friends." President Hae-jin nodded. "That may be the most important result of all. We did not fight for conquest or glory. We fought because it was the right thing to do, and now everyone knows it." Dr. Taemin had prepared a comprehensive report on the alien reactions to humanity's performance. "The psychological impact cannot be overstated," he said. "Most species plan their wars carefully, trying to minimize losses and maximize gains. The idea of a species that will sacrifice everything to protect others is disturbing to them." "Good," Captain So Young said with satisfaction. "Let them be disturbed. Maybe it will make them think twice before starting unnecessary wars." Lieutenant Subin, now promoted to commander for her tactical analysis work, added her observations. "The aliens keep asking us what we want in return for our victory. They cannot understand that we already got what we wanted. Our neighbors are safe." The briefing continued for several hours, but the conclusions were clear. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not with words or treaties, but with actions. They had shown that Earth would not be ignored, conquered, or dismissed. More importantly, they had shown that humanity would stand up for others, even at terrible cost to themselves. 6 months after the Battle of Kethmore, President Hyejin addressed the human colonies scattered across 47 star systems. Her speech was broadcast to every world where humans lived and worked. Today marks the anniversary of our victory over the Kethmori swarm, she said. We did not fight because we wanted war. We fought because our neighbors needed help, and because stopping evil is everyone's responsibility. She paused, looking directly into the camera. The galaxy has offered us membership in their federations and alliances. They have offered us technology, territory, and power. We have refused all of these offers because humanity's strength does not come from what others give us. It comes from what we are willing to give others. We remain independent, but not isolated. We remain peaceful, but not passive. And we remain ready to do whatever is necessary to protect innocent life, wherever we find it. The universe is vast and dangerous, full of threats we cannot imagine. But it is also full of beauty, wonder, and hope. Our job is to make sure the beauty survives, the wonder continues, and the hope never dies. This is our promise to ourselves and to our neighbors. Earth will stand guard, always. The transmission ended, but its message spread throughout the galaxy within days. Every species, every world, every space station heard the same words. Humanity would protect those who could not protect themselves, and if anyone doubted that promise, they only had to look at the expanding debris field where the Kethmori swarm had once existed. The galaxy's most feared predators had been reduced to scattered atoms by a species that most aliens had considered primitive. The age of underestimating humanity was over. In its place came something new, respect earned in blood, and the knowledge that Earth's children would never again be dismissed as irrelevant. The galaxy had learned to fear humans not because they were cruel, but because they were kind. Not because they sought conquest, but because they would sacrifice everything to protect others, and that, more than any weapon or technology, made them the most dangerous species in the universe.